Welcome everybody to the After Dark Show. I'm Don Rogers. This is an episode I've wanted to do for quite a while, and I found two of the best possible guests I could have involved in this. But before we get there and into that, I'm going to get something across that I usually wouldn't bring up, but I know us as podcasters and personalities, we accept the responsibility that we are in the public eye. And I started my public page and this show because I have questions about this construct of reality, how things really work. And that's been the whole focus of my show and my experience since my spiritual remembering started. And just to be completely blunt, it actually costs me over $800 a year to produce this show. And I am not one of those people, whether it's on my social media or on my show, where I will just sit there and let you project a narrative that I don't agree with. I will absolutely always be 100% authentic and express myself and my beliefs from my experiences. And not to sound like a dick, but if you don't like that, unsubscribe, because I am not going to change the person I am to suit other people's narratives. Sorry, I'm a little antsy about this, but I just wanted to get that across. I am not here to paraphrase one of my favorite guests who's going to join us tonight. I am not here to smoke the proverbial pole. Okay. And I never fucking will. So please don't ask me to, and please don't call me disrespectful, because I won't let you spout black pill narrative nonsense on my fucking show or my Facebook. Okay. Anyways, beyond that, we are going to do a Rick and Morty episode review tonight. And I just want to be clear that me and my guests, the After Dark Show, Forbidden Knowledge Network, we have no affiliation with the networks, the producers, or anybody in creative control of the Rick and Morty show. This is strictly just fan theory and review, right? And that's as clear as I can possibly be on that. Now, like I said, I picked two of the best people I could possibly think. I know they're both fans of the show, and just we've shot the shit about the show more times than I can count in the background conversations that you guys don't get to hear. And so my first guest tonight is my favorite blue-haired etheric fairy. She is the queen of the Facebook meme and waking people up from the fucking dream. Fairy. Aurora.
Hi.
Thank you for coming back.
Thanks for having me back. Great intro. I don't know where that all came from, but bravo. And I totally agree with you on that. And fuck anyone who wants to come at you like that. I don't know what happened, but I got your back.
I love you for that, and thank you, because it was a positive Facebook post that somebody turned into a platform, and I just wasn't having it, and they've now disassociated themselves from my show and from everything about me because I don't agree with their narrative. Anyways, speaking of another person who loves to buck the narrative, he is my interdimensional brother from another mother. He is the one and only FKN heretic. It is Mr. Steven Stathis of BG Cast. Welcome back, brother.
What's going on, man? Thanks for having me on. This is going to be fun. I think this is I've been watching season 8, so I won't spoil it. But
come on, let's spoil it for them. Who cares? I love spoilers. I'm terrible at not giving spoilers, so I mean,
all I'm gonna say is the first episode of season 8 was fucking. It hit home hard. It hit home hard, and I'm not gonna give it away for everybody, but let's just say it involves a simulation. It involves a simulation. It involves Summer and Morty waking up in a simulation, and all of the towns are named after phone chargers or electronics and shit like that.
Because you don't steal phone chargers. Don't steal people's phone chargers. That's right.
It was the number one crime in that simulation. It was the number one crime. It's like, you don't steal a phone charger. It was punishable by death, if I remember correctly. But no, I'm looking forward to breaking into this, man, because I've always thought that Rick and Morty, it was, both predictive programming and disclosure. both of them. So I mean, there's a lot of goodness there. So I can't wait to talk about my episode. This is gonna be fun.
Yeah. And I just want to give anybody, because I love to do things on this show from a 101 kind of standpoint, because like I said at the beginning, I started this show because I had questions. The best way to do it is ask them on the air and find people smarter than me or that have been doing the research, the deep dives, and been down the rabbit holes and can tell me, right? So I guess what I'd like to address first is, what is predictive programming? Well, our good friend Sarah Elkelly just did an episode of her show about The Simpsons did it, right? That is a prime example of how many things The Simpsons have predicted, right? Predictive programming isn't the fact that The Simpsons or Matt Groening has some type of magic looking glass. He is using the metaphysics of this reality to cause these things to happen, because we are all creator beings, and if enough of us en masse observe these things and bring them into even imaginative reality, they can enter our construct, because this all runs on frequency, vibration, and intent, right? That is the 101 version of predictive programming. I don't know if you guys want to throw anything in on that.
So in my opinion, I mean, you got to look at this. So the collective consciousness manifests reality. That's the biggest secret that they keep from everybody. And that's how they get it. They use this symbolism. So our subconscious minds are receptive to way more information than our conscious mind is. So when we see these events or these fabrications of events, or they're pitching an idea, or they're pitching a narrative towards us, whether it be through The Simpsons, whether it be through Rick and Morty, our subconscious absorbs that information. And if we start to buy into that information and we start to accept it, even on a subconscious level, because the collective consciousness is what manifests the world sphere, the world stage, it's going to come to fruition. So this is why symbolism is so powerful, everybody. And I talk about that on my show a lot as well. It is, like, for instance, you take an event, let's say you want to manifest an event. You take it, you put it in a show, because this is the strange thing about TV and movies. Even though we're told that they're make-believe, honestly, so many people, it alters their psyche, and they develop opinions, thoughts about their lives, relationships based on TV, movies, and media. So this is actually how powerful this is, and this is how it is done, at least in my thoughts.
Totally agree with you on that one. And I actually have something to add, because that's the thing. We've forgotten that, now that we're all connected to each other in such a way with the internet and everything like that, like, back in the day when we weren't, storytelling was just so important. You know what I'm saying? Think of like the, Grimm's fairy tales and all those types of stories that the oracle traditions that the tribes would pass down. You know what I'm saying? It's like, those are the things that told you who you are. So the only other thing that I wanted to add upon hearing what you were saying was, not only are they feeding us and people are soaking this in, and so therefore our collective consciousness is what they're giving us, what to manifest for us. And that's why we need to reclaim the stories and start finding a way to even reframe them more positively, because they're giving us endings. A lot of times, if you look at it, the apocalyptic type of endings, we need to start changing those in our own mind. And also, the stories that you're drawn to are telling you about yourself. They're telling you about your role that you have to play here. You know what I'm saying? And so for me, what that says to me about you is that you are really here to help mold and guide the collective consciousness through these types of stories, through this type of information. You know what I'm saying? That's why we're drawn to this stuff, because we are the new Earth leaders, in my opinion. I was told that in a dream that that the new Earth was going to need strong and powerful leaders. And I asked the person who said that in the dream, I said, "What do you mean powerful?" And they said willpower. So it's about building our own personal willpower and coming together and deciding what is it that we really want to see as a collective. And it really does start with your own personal journey. You know what I'm saying? The more you feel fulfilled in your own personal journey, the bigger the role gets, the bigger your mission gets. And then the more we affect people until eventually we reach that 100th monkey effect. And we can really take back control of where this planet is going, in my opinion.
I dig it.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. No, I think you guys, between what the three of us said, I think that's about the clearest explanation in 2 minutes I've ever heard on the subject. So So if we want to jump into your episode, Steven, you picked A Mort Well Lived, which is season 6, episode 2. Yeah.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes, this episode blew my mind, right? Because one of the things about this episode is, to me, it explained on a very high level how source consciousness fractalizes itself. And we are these subjective focal point fractals of the universal divine consciousness. And I like this episode for the fact they had the Roy game in a previous season. What's really interesting about it, because the Roy game, it's like a simulation. You put it on, there's time dilation, and then you dive into this life and you dive into this avatar. And you live this life as this different person than who you actually are, your true nature, the true core of who you are. And you have this time dilation. I mean, the game theoretically in the show is like 2 to 3 hours, but you live the span of 75 to 80 years. And what's crazy about this episode in season 6, episode 2, is because it showed the fractal concept of how the universe is self-similar on all scales, how source consciousness fractalizes itself, because there's if I'm correct, there was over 5 billion people in this game during this simulation, and half of those were fractals of Morty, and half of those were fractals of Rick. And the whole goal of this episode was all of the fractals were trying to get to space so they could all unite together at their original source. So as you see here on the screen, you see one of the Rick fractals that's on the stage, but then the rest of these people out here are Morty fractals. They're all a piece of Morty. And this was like a huge thing in the episode. Like, they had to keep reminding themselves, like, I'm Morty. You're also Morty. You're also Morty. Things along those lines. And, same thing with the Ricks. Like, they were all like, I'm Rick. You're also Rick. I mean, he's also Rick. So this is something we see in the spiritual nature, because we're all a fractal of God. We're all the divine light. You know what I mean? And that's how source consciousness created this reality. It started to repartition itself. It started to fractalize itself into smaller and smaller scales, smaller and smaller units, hence giving forth the birth of us. So this episode was really profoundly interesting to me in that way, because it just was so deeply spiritual. And whether they realized it was spiritual or not, that's up for debate. Don't get me wrong. But to me, it was laying out very clearly the nature of this existence, how source consciousness operates, our true nature. We are all these little fractals of source consciousness. That's what our spiritual evolution is about. That's what the ascension is about. We are trying to work our way, remember our way back to who we truly are, our true source. So that's why I loved it, man. I mean, it was to me, it blew my mind, kind of, to look at it and see it so laid out as plain as day. On Rick and Morty, because Rick kind of symbolizes the demiurge a little bit. He does, you know what I mean? That's what a lot of people say, that Rick is very much like a demiurge. And when we look at the definition of demiurge, it is a craftsman or a manufacturer of the physical realm that is devoid of all spirituality, even though spirituality is his true nature, or is its true nature. So Rick, even though he denies the existence of a divine, even though he half admits it, like in a few other episodes too, like there was that episode in season 7, which I think you're bringing up, Don, so I won't say anything about it. But, so Rick does kind of half admit it in a lot of the episodes that there is something beyond this. He doesn't really, I guess you could say, believe in the Judeo-Christian God. But he's half hinted at something being there. So this is why this episode was definitely I liked that one too, Jason. This is why this episode became a quick favorite of mine. Just the fractal principle, how existence works, how our true nature, where we really come from, the symbolism of uniting back to our source. And that's why I dug it, man. It was a good one.
Yeah. Just one correction from the live studio audience. The 17-year-old held up a note, and it was one Rick to 5 billion Mortys.
Okay, Rick, so I thought there was more Ricks, yeah.
Yeah, Rick went in as Roy to save all the Mortys because Morty was the entire population of the planet.
Morty was all the NPCs.
Yeah, Morty was all the NPCs. Yeah.
But it was great though. It was great, man. It was like it definitely made me look at Rick and Morty differently because they've always had interesting concepts, but to see them putting out like that kind of spiritual goodness and that kind of spiritual symbolism, I was totally like really happy about it. So,
go ahead, Roar.
What I found fascinating about this episode too, because you're nailing it on the head. Because I've already had thoughts before that, like, okay, because one of the most important dreams I had, basically, they showed me, like, I came here with, like, a group of 5 companions. And so what it got me thinking was, what if there truly was, like, literally only really 6 beings, okay, that came here, but we were fractalized, just like Morty was. And it was so interesting to me that every single one of the Mortys had their own personality. You know what I'm saying? Like, and some of them didn't even want to go back. So that's why they ended up staying in the game so long, and it took so long to get them to actually come out. And Summer had to like keep everyone distracted with the Die Hard episode part. Because they didn't all agree, you know what I'm saying? To like, okay, but we can live a life here. We can, like, they had real attachments to each other. Like the main Morty that founded basically like the religion, they turned it into religion, even though they tried not to, like she even didn't want to go because she wanted to stay with her dad, who was starting to die. And when finally she confronted her father, and her father was like, what are you talking about? I'm in a dying body. If I could have the chance to be a 17-year-old boy again, let's get the hell out of here. Let's go. And it took that, her hearing that and seeing that, for them to finally all agree and get on one page. But it shows you, it's like that. I feel like that's what we're struggling here with, and to be reunified again, is that we're not seeing that we really all do have the same spark of God inside of us, and we need to get all on the same page with that. And it's okay to have the body's going to have its own ego personality,
100%.
Yeah. You know what I'm saying?
Well, what I was going to say too was like the thing you brought up about there actually being, so I myself, in my experiences on my spiritual evolution, I had a particular vision one time where I did see that there was originally, it was either 7 or 9 main archetypal beings in the beginning that actually over time fractalized themselves down into us, and there was, and the vision kind of went like this. I saw the birth of the physical realm. It expanded out, the primordial vibration, and then source consciousness constructed the first archetypal beings to come here and to experience this, so source could begin to know itself and understand its creation and gain an understanding of it. So that's actually really cool that you said that. I resonate with that a lot, because it could very well be a thing. There could have been, and a lot of people, me and Don have a friend, Frank Castle, and he talks about how we are fractals of these beings too. Like you look at the Elohim, you look at, potentially the Anunnaki, or all of these different, or the gods, as we look at it there. We are them, pretty much, but we are just the fractal format of them. So that was really good, Aurora. I dig that. That's definitely resonated.
Not a problem.
So, question from the audience, and then I'll get to my point of that episode. What do you guys think about how sometimes they kill a version of them and live in their realm?
Yeah. Oh, boy. Oh, gosh. I have actually thought about that one a lot because, there is another show that is called the OA, okay? And it's about time traveling through dimensions and how basically, like, there's all these parallel realities, right? And so if you want to cross over into another one, it's like whichever one is the driving observer consciousness through it. Like when OA traveled to another dimension to go find her love, Homer, right? When you do that, your body dies. So in that reality now, she was dead. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, I also I feel like I'm getting off track because I was comparing it to that. But what was we're going to bring it back to the Rick and Morty thing. So where was the question at? Let me see the question again.
Just 1 second.
Let me see it.
What was it about when they kill
Oh yeah. So sometimes in the Rick and Mortys, right, they end up totally fucking up their reality, and they can't even live in it anymore. So they have to go and timeline jump into another one and find one where they're already going to be dead, so that they can take the place. And I feel like, well, I remember this, that what they did end up in a reality where forever, where they've ended up in this separate reality where now that particular one, almost like a Mandela effect, Parmesan is called Parmesan.
Yes, yes.
The Parmesan.
And they keep it going. Parmesan. They keep talking about that in other episodes. They're like, Parmesan, can you pass me the Parmesan? Because that's the reality that they live in now. You know? Yeah.
So there's also a concept to, you know, that this is if you die prematurely or something before you time, you can cross over into another timeline where that didn't happen, and you can continue out your existence. That's also kind of what I get from it too, you know, that there's a lot of symbolism in that, and it almost makes you kind of think about walk-ins too a little bit. If you want to like go down that road and think about walk-ins, that is it possible that you from a higher timeline or a different timeline could have potentially walked into the you in this timeline and kind of helped facilitate some kind of growth or transformation along those lines, and kind of push you into that timeline that it left. So that's also something I kind of pick from it as well, because, you know, in our spiritual evolution, the more we grow, the more we evolve, the more we jump timelines, the more we alter our own timeline. And so to me, that's how I feel about it. I kind, you know, we hear about the concept when you die, you just continue your life in a different timeline. Or it is possible it could have a walk-in feature. Like you can have walk-in Rick. Rick walks into this timeline because this Rick was already going to die, to continue in its place and potentially try to cultivate that timeline he walked into to where it was where he was. So that's kind of where I'm getting with it.
And yeah, I'm like right along the same path. And I honestly wonder if that's not what we're doing etherically, because like I've pretty well figured that I am a walk-in. I am the original version. I'm not necessarily a walk-in. I was just a very, very filtered down version of myself for a very, very long time, since I was about 5 years old. 5-year-old me was just as intelligent and articulate as I am now, right? But he got crushed by the system and all of those wonderful things. But I honestly wonder if that's what we're doing etherically as we collapse timelines, is basically like compressing those versions of ourselves and turning them into this one. Right? Because I still have the memories of everything that's taken place in my life, even though I no longer feel like I participated in them. Right? I feel as of like 2 to 4 years ago that I've become a different version of self. Right? And it's because of a huge timeline collapse. So I do feel as like I came through a portal, and all of a sudden I was aware of this understanding and this reality and everything that was going on around me. Right? It really is a very startling experience when you first figure out what's going on.
Yeah, well, you got to remember too, the body is its own thing. You know what I'm saying? It's a computer system. So like, for instance, for my walk-in experience, you know what I'm saying? Like, according to Lisa Renee's Ascension Glossary, the best way I could describe it is they crushed my heart to death. That's what they want to do with the traumas and the pain. So that way we can't activate our high heart and live out what our birthright is, which is to know love and joy and to bring miracles and manifestations into this world and everything like that. But you have to remember, so even though I did not feel anything anymore, I died, but I was still a body walking around. And when my soul braid walking came to me and we became one, it was like, she still has, like, we still have access to all those memories, but it's almost like watching a movie of a different person. You know what I'm saying? Like, I can still remember all those things, and I can be like, oh yeah, I remember when I went through this in my 20s, because the body did. But you know, but our spirit's eternal. You know, so it's a weird thing. Yeah. So I definitely relate to you on that, Don. Yeah.
Yeah. Before we move on to something else, I do want to say the one thing about that episode that you brought up, Stephen, is if we look at this from the perspective of an example of collective consciousness, does that mean that, like, okay, we understand that we're all part of collective consciousness now, right? And if we are all Morty, does that mean we can contact all the way back to the highest version of Morty? We'll use the reference that they used, right? now that people understand the concept of collective consciousness, can we on Earth find out how to access that stream back to the main Morty?
Oh, absolutely. And it's as simple as this. You already are that stream. And this is the thing. And this is why I don't like the term spiritual awakening anymore. Like I like the term spiritual remembering. I think that's a better term for it, because all you're doing, you're already your higher self. You're already that highest stream. Everything is already within you that you already know. You're just remembering it all. You're just remembering your way back to that highest stream. So I feel if you take that perspective, as opposed to thinking of it as awakening and gaining more knowledge. I mean, guys, the knowledge is already there. It's already existing within you. You are everything that was, is, or ever will be. And that is what's located. That's the power we have. So accessing that stream is as simple as shifting your perspective from spiritual awakening to spiritual remembering. And if you shift your perspective into that, you can totally access that stream. 100%, Don.
That's kind of where I've had a butt cheek, is trying to get into a clearer, like I've been doing some work myself. I know I've shared this on the show before, but I've really figured out the more of your own personal trauma you clear away, the wider that frequency, the more open that band comes. And it really is getting rid of all of the parts of your persona that you thought you needed up until this point. And as you clear that away, you get that more divine connection, right? That's just my take on what I've been figuring out.
No, that's 100% right. The more you clear out, because those emotional traumas and those emotional energies, they get trapped in the vessel, and the vessel is meant to be like a streaming service for God's consciousness to come in. And when you clear those things out, it does. It opens the bandwidth, so that way you can channel in more of God's frequency. That's what you're supposed. That's exactly right. Like, you nailed it.
100%, man, 100%. And that's why too. One of the biggest things the only thing I would add to that is a lot of it's stored in the fascia. That's something I definitely want to add. It's a somatic response. So if you release that from your fascia, that's the way to do it. 100%. But yeah, no, right on the money. Right on the money.
I want to talk because I need to learn some stuff. And since all three of us always have squirrels, and it's already been mentioned in the comments a couple of times, let's hop down this. I know this was a favorite point of yours, Steven, so I'm just going to let her rip and teach me some stuff.
So the reason why I really like this clip is because you guys have heard me talk about the Invisible College on Don's show before. And what is the Invisible College for those who don't know? Well, the Invisible College is the collective of the secret orders and intelligence agencies that actually manufacture the false matrix reality. And what I really loved about this clip is you hear the squirrels talking about how they're trying to start coups. You hear the squirrels talking about diverting the attention of the public over here while they do this and they get this done, how they're going to be like placing certain people in certain positions to get a desired effect. So this, to me, this whole scene was the surface level of how the Invisible College works. And it was a really big one for me because, again, we know our reality is manufactured. We know our reality is fake. We don't say it's all fake and gay for no reason. You know what I mean? Because it is. I mean, this is why we call it societal Maya. This is why they call it that. So that's why I love this scene, because you hear the squirrels like plotting on how to manufacture reality. They're talking about, we're going to stage this coup. We're going to divert the attention of the public over here so we can do this to get this desired effect. And then they notice that Morty's listening to them. Right. And what's even better about this, though, this shows you the extent of the Invisible College and how kind of widespread and how big it is. Look at all the squirrels. So this is something, I think that flew over a lot of people's heads in this. I mean, you wouldn't know unless you know what it is or if you knew what you were looking for. But no, this is how our reality is manufactured, guys. This is why we need to not watch mainstream media. This is why we need to break away from mainstream content altogether. This is why we need to stop getting roped into viral psyops too. Like, I mean, I on my show on Wednesday, I was talking about the Sydney Sweeney thing, on how it all just completely everybody took their attention off of all of the important shit, which is what the parasite class in the college wants you to do. They want you to do exactly that, not focus on what's going on over here, but look over here. And people get absorbed. It's giving energy. It's almost like a loosh harvest, and a lot of people don't even realize it, So that's why it's like, and the flack that I get from people when I say this, it's funny. It's because they're like, what, are we not allowed to laugh? I'm like, yeah, no, you're allowed to laugh. You're allowed to joke. You're allowed to. But here's the thing. You become overly absorbed in it. You're posting Sydney Sweetie memes. Excuse me for that.
Sweems.
For the
I like that better.
Sweems. We're gonna go. You're posting Sweems for like the next 2-3 fucking months, dude. It's the only thing in your focus. The same thing with the whole WNBA dildo thing on the court that's going on right now. People are, I guess, throwing dildos out on the WNBA court.
They banned bags, and people are still finding a way to get them in. What the fuck?
Somebody's using their prison wallet.
I don't.
Someone's using the prison wallet. Yes, the little lady.
You said
pocket.
the prison wallet. You know what's funny about prison wallets? I guess somehow people manage. There was a guy. I don't know if he managed to get a 40 cal in his prison wallet. And I don't know how you get a 40 cal in your prison wallet, but that's talent. We're gonna go there. That's some talent. He must have been practicing for that one. But no, exactly my point on the squirrel clip. My point on the squirrel clip. It is. This is how our reality is manufactured, guys. This is how they divert and they sway the focus of the public. This is how they harvest your loosh. This is how they get you focused on these stupid things, distract you, while they're over here doing other things to continuously perpetuate the vicious cycle.
100%.
Prison wallet.
Absolutely. Sorry, now that everybody's recovered from prison wallet. Oh, fuck. Why did I say that?
No. Because you're the right word to use. The right word to use for it.
It's shape shifting. That's how they get it in.
William says it's shape shifting. That's how they get it in prison wallet. Holy God.
That's funny, man.
Technology.
Yeah.
Because they're not human.
We have a live studio audience in case you guys can't tell. You actually mentioned parasites, which brings us to another subsection. Uncle Steve.
Uncle Steve.
Yeah. Now, this was an interesting subsection for sure because, like, it really represented. Okay, they turned it into a bunch of fictional characters, but like they basically showed how an internal parasite can take over a human form, right? That was my main takeaway from that. Was like these are saying that like a parasite can either just insert itself into your life, or it can actually take physical human form, and it's like holy fuck. Now I'm pretty sure I'd have figured out Mrs. Refrigerator pretty quick, but Uncle Steve. Wait a second.
Oh.
Are you fucking?
Oh.
I could just be an NPC. You never know.
Said that the other day.
Do you have any bad memories of them? That was the key, remember? If you don't have any bad memories of them and it's all, don't you remember we did that one fine thing together? But they even tried to come up with one. They couldn't even, like, it just shows that they can manipulate your memories. They can manipulate your consciousness, your emotions, you know what I'm saying? And it's like, they want to keep you feeling good and happy. Like, think about it with like Candida, you know what I'm saying? Candida and yeast overgrowth. And it wants you to eat sugar, right? So it makes you feel good when you eat that sugar because you're feeding that parasite, So,
Exactly.
yeah.
Bro, you literally, okay, I'm on a cleanse and I've been having some gastrointestinal issues. You were just fucking talking about Candida yesterday. I still have the message on her phone.
That's funny.
Candida's one of the trickiest ones to get rid of.
It is.
It's a tricky one to get rid of. It takes discipline and diligence. Good supplements, like I was telling you, caprylic acid. Caprylic acid's an amazing. It nukes it. It nukes it pretty good. Same thing with black walnut. But Candida is a tough one. But what Aurora was saying, this is how we can even get implanted with false memories. We talk about how a lot of us in this community are potentially targeted. We talk about these voice to skull. We talk about all of these different things that we experience being spiritual people and being spiritually sensitive. So this kind of adds to that, in my opinion, and especially when we talk about alien parasites, because that's what these were. I mean, look at these interdimensional parasitic beings that are feeding off of us at this point in time. So this kind of gives way to that, and it kind of was a lot of symbolism in that episode, for me at least, that pointed to that direction. Actually, one of my favorite parts about the episode is at the end, when all of them are gone, and Jerry goes to kiss Beth, and Beth pulls away and goes, "I need to forget about Sleepy Gary first.
Sleepy Gary.
I need to forget about Sleepy Gary." Yes, so that was one of my favorite parts of it. But no, it was a brilliant episode. Especially Sam brought it up in the comments. Poor Mr. Poopy Butthole. He ended up getting the shit end of the stick. He actually he became one of my favorite characters for a little bit, because he got kind of morbid and dark in a couple of the episodes where he was sitting there popping the painkillers and going like, "Ooh wee, I've just lost everything." And but no, that episode very, very deep for me. Also, a lot of the episodes are very, very deep for me. And false memories, guys, having discernment with ourselves and not letting parasites eat from us. Like not letting them take away, all of this energy that we're cultivating here on our spiritual evolution, and falling prey to their deceptive techniques.
Absolutely. Speaking of episodes that resonate deeply, we'll move on to mine. It was Mort Ragnarok, and in this episode, Rick is basically attempting to figure out if there is an afterlife, right? So it opens with this scene, and it's Jerry in what looks like heaven, out to meet his grandma. The opening of the episode, you see Jerry in a great white void. He is met by his grandma, but not his grandpa's pop-up, because he is sick of Jerry and his NDEs. Sounds very familiar. I've had several. He's sick of Jerry's NDEs. However, turns out to be this actually just turns out to be another one of Rick's experiments. Now, before we get into the part where Rick comes in, I do want to touch on something I was just jokingly mentioning. I've actually had 13 NDEs, 2 which I've been biologically dead, and yeah, I won't get into the rest. Well, Steve, I told you I got electrocuted by 920 volts while standing in water. That's pretty well go time.
Cooking.
Yeah. What I can say about my most recent NDE is this picture is almost accurate, except for if you truly are going home, there is no life review because you've done your life review here. There is no judgment. There is no ceremony. There is no calling you back. When you truly believe on a spiritual level that you have accomplished your life's mission as a pure human being, when you experience death, you go back to the most loving sensation of energy that you can possibly experience, and you can't possibly experience it here, because I had to freaking die to feel it, and I've never felt anything like this in the human realm, right? So they're actually fairly accurate with that picture. Now, when Jerry comes to, they're back in Rick's lab, and this is where it gets kind of fascinating, because Rick goes on to explain once Jerry regains consciousness, he's like, there's a zero mass. Basically, there's a heaven, right? Because he saw his grandparents, and they are zero mass fields of consciousness preserved by a paradimensional layer of infinite energy. I had to write that one down because that is a freaking mouthful. Right. But basically what that means is there's an infinite source of energy that holds us all as a collective, basically source. Right. He goes on to explain there's kind of a heaven, especially for a neurotypical like your father. His conscious connection to a localized cultural model of the infinite. It functions like a wick. That's what he's showing here. It draws Jerry up into this realm of energy. Right. So basically what they've explained here is a generalized explanation of collective consciousness. Like it is literally once you pass from a biological form, you return to an infinite source of energy. And that's what I experienced. Right. So that's why this episode resonated so deeply with me. Now, one of the things I thought was going to be fascinating for you, Stephen, is I saw something in this picture.
Ooh, that flew by me the first time. Okay.
Yeah. So here
Very
we go.
Interesting.
Damn.
Let's
Very
get into it.
interesting.
Stephen, do you want to explain to everybody what this is that we're looking at?
So this is the Kabbalistic tree of life. And this one, well, according to the spiritual revival that's going on right now, this is an outdated one, but it's still nonetheless is the Kabbalistic tree of life. And it has many symbolic references to it. I mean, we look at the human body. We look at the chakra system. Exactly. And, and it's interesting because if you have ever dived into Kabbalah or ceremonial magic, they actually have their own version of the chakra system. It's a little bit different than the Vedic kind, but it's actually called the middle pillar. And so you have this energy center at the top of your head. You have an energy center at the top in the middle of your throat. You have an energy center in your heart in the Kabbalistic version. You have an energy center in your sacral area. And then you have one in between your feet. And then if you want to count the Earth's energy center, which we're actually all a part of, there is that energy center that's in the center of the Earth. So this is actually, it's a metaphysical tradition. Kabbalah, a lot of people have used it. Some still practice it. I've always been a little bit more of an Eastern guy. That's just how I roll. It resonates a little bit more with me. But yeah, I definitely did dabble in Kabbalah and ceremonial magic during COVID quite a bit. So it's very interesting. That flew by me the first time. It did. It flew by me. I did not see that. So thank you for bringing that up,
Don. And we actually went a little further because I have my interdimensional study buddy. She had the Anatomy of Spirit handy, and I know it's going to glitch out on me, but even in the Anatomy of Spirit, Rick actually has a more concise version, because in the Anatomy of Spirit, that middle node is missing, and it's actually missing from here too. But what that is knowledge. So even in the Anatomy of Spirit, Rick has shown a more complete version of what we're looking at, right? Like, I do truly think that Rick was using science and metaphysics to understand source consciousness. Absolutely. That's what I picked up from it.
No, definitely. I would agree with you, man. And that's the thing, metaphysics and science can actually be synergistic. If it's expanded upon, if it's actually implemented. And that's why I know a lot of you out there have seen the Spirit Science series. I'm going to bring that up too. So, actually, when I was actually in my very early stages of my remembering back in 2010, 2011, and 2012, the Spirit Science thing was a huge thing. And they talked about how that spirit and science actually complement each other. The spirit can actually affiliate for the gray areas that science cannot explain. So when you look at what Rick was doing, implementing metaphysics with this scientific technique he was doing to try and find this source of energy or to try and tap into it or study it, I mean, really what we're looking at is what things could eventually evolve into here. As we continue to kind of step foot into the new Earth frequency. It must be hot over there, Aurora.
I have no AC in my house.
Oh shit!
Oh my goodness!
And I'm trying to keep the air circulating. I'm on the second floor, so I'm like, yeah, gotcha. I'm a little bit hot up in here. So
I understand.
One thing that you just kind of made me remember and write down there is the quote, quantum physics is where the science of spirituality is hidden. And that is one thing that Rick had all over that blackboard. It's like, when you look at the concepts that he was melding in those, it was just, and there's Sam and I connected to the exact same thing. Like, holy shit, why not? Right. That's hilarious. But no, I really do think, since I've been looking into quantum physics, I've understood a lot more about spirituality.
It's interesting, man, because go ahead, Aurora, what were you gonna say?
I was going to say, well, it's funny that you're bringing up all these concepts right now, because Spirit keeps taking me back again to the OA show, which is like the whole thing that the premise behind the show, the OA, was this girl who was blind gets kidnapped, okay, and put and locked up with these 5 other people. And this guy, this doctor, is doing these experiments on them to try and find out not only if there's an afterlife, but also where, like, are there other dimensions that we can go to through near-death experiences. And so that's what he kidnapped these people for, so that he could put them through these near-death experiences again and again and again, just like he was doing with Jerry. And every time they did that, they would end up in another dimension where they were themselves, but they were in another dimension, another parallel reality where things were just completely different. Their role was completely different. They still had the same people around them because soul groups travel together, right? So that's what I had to say about that. So the OA keeps coming up here when it comes to these concepts that we're talking about. But also, when I first started my remembering, so to speak, I remember one of the things that Spirit guided me to do was to take these sticky stars that I had, and on the back of my door, I made a tree of life with these stars. And that's why it's like the most important spiritual concepts aren't the ones that are going to, it's like when you read about riding a bike, right? Like you can read it, but until you actually ride the bike, you don't really completely understand it. And so how do you start with drawing this information into you? Well, you look at it, you look at the pictures, you look at the symbols. I think there was even someone, I can't remember who it was, someone who was like a whistleblower or something. He talked about how the government has this facility where you would go down this elevator shaft, and there would be symbols, and each one of these symbols would completely bring your consciousness back fully awake and aware of who you are, what we're really doing here. And then as you went back up, it would close you back down. I don't remember who that was, but symbols are so important. And actually, I have just recently been getting into how the tarot relates to the tree of life and how it can guide us on the 32 different paths of self-actualization to coming into our full godhood, so to speak. And that middle pillar, like I know exactly what you're talking about, because there's the middle pillar and then there's the 2 on the side, and so those are like alternate routes that they all take us to the same spot, which is that very top number 1 there. Yeah. But there's one side of severity, the other side is called severity, and the left hand path, severity, and then the right hand path is mercy. And the trick is to figure out which way is going to work for you to get you up there. And then you have to also realize that if you flip that tree of life around, there's the tree of death, because that's our shadow side. We have to realize we have to integrate that shadow just as much as we have to acknowledge the light. We have to learn to work with it, so to speak. So I love the tree of life stuff. I love that Rick had that on there. Like it's all clicking. It's like, this is how you know that the people who wrote this show and who are working on this show, they have access to information, and it's like, this is on purpose. They are telling us these things on purpose. They are showing us these things on purpose. These are not made up imaginary concepts. These are real things that they're showing us.
They're doing it through plausible deniability. So what they're using something called plausible deniability by putting it in a TV show like that. So that way it can be looked at as make-believe. It can be looked at as fiction, even though it's actually a very real thing that they're showing us. And kind of like touching on what Don was saying, right now, quantum physics is dead set on proving a lot of esoteric concepts true, especially with the theory of panpsychism. And I mean, I know I've talked about this on your show before, Don. I'll bring it up just again real quick. But panpsychism is this new up-and-coming theory in quantum physics that consciousness is the prima materia of this existence, and that everything does stem from consciousness. So what this does is it does a few things. Number one, it takes and this is the thing I love about it the most, because it destroys the consensual narrative on our existence here. Because if consciousness is the prima materia of this existence, we're not here just by coincidence or by chance. It's necessary that we're here. We have to be alive in order to observe this existence. This existence doesn't exist unless we're observing it and we're experiencing it. So the fact that this is all kind of, like you were saying, quantum physics is that bridge, and quantum physics did a freaking out of left field within the past couple of years with panpsychism. We're getting there, guys. That's something to celebrate. We're getting there. It's slowly. We're nudging. Of course, there's people who debate it, and it's kind of funny. One of the biggest arguments for panpsychism, how does the consciousness group together to form a larger consciousness? Like this is, and it makes me laugh because I'm like, consciousness doesn't need to do that. If consciousness is everything and it is the prima materia of this existence, it doesn't need to group together to form a larger consciousness. So it's pretty interesting. So
absolutely, we are at about the halfway point. So I think this is a good time to say, like I said earlier at the beginning of the show, we have absolutely no affiliation with the networks, the producers, the writers, anything, and we are certainly not sponsored by the Plumbus. You can get your Plumbus at 50% off. Now, the Plumbus, I don't know if you've looked this up, but is an absolutely wonderful household device that I think everybody should have. So, just so you know, the Plumbus is now on sale for 50% off.
So what is it? You take the, what is it? How did they say you take it? You take the schleeb, right?
I was trying to think of the words, the Fleeblewop or something like that. Fleeble thing. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Mommy shows up.
Interdimensional cable.
Let's talk about that for a sec. Let's talk about interdimensional cable for a sec. Oh my God, Ants in My Eyes Johnson. One of my favorites.
Just respect my personal space. That's all I'm going to say. My personal. Oh, wait. Little bits. Remember that one? Go eat a piece of shit, you little son of a bitch. Just kidding. Just kidding.
Little bites for little mouths or whatever it was. And then, oh, dude. Yes. So yeah.
Everything
Ants in My Eyes Johnson. I can't even see the prices. They're so good. It's like people are just running into his store taking stuff. What was it? Fake doors too. Oh, it's like, buy some
real fake doors.
And then what was that alternate timeline where Jerry was successful and he starred in Atlas Rising or something like that, yes. or that movie and he was playing there? So, that was great.
Oh my God. Yeah. Okay. So another one that we're gonna side scroll on, and then we'll do Aurora's, is one that I loved, and I'm sure you do. And I didn't grab the car battery episode, Teenyverse. You want to talk about in-your-face construct of reality, simulation within a simulation, world within a world. This is one of those episodes. And I love how Rick and Morty has hit on this subject in several different ways. Like, there actually was when Rick was battling the aliens who had him in a simulation, Like, the worlds within worlds theme is something that they really do touch on, and it makes you wonder, how relevant it is that, like, we're within the layers of reality. Like, that's basically what I find these episodes are often explaining, is it's the layers of reality.
What was crazy is that it was his car battery, and he built a whole universe, a mini-verse. And then he went to those people and dressed up as aliens and gave them I have this technology. It's going to make your life so much fucking better, guys. All you have to do is walk on this Google box. And so they would just sit there, and he's like, and guess what? It's going to give you electricity. It's going to power up your entire world. And all the bad energy is going to get shunted to this volcano, when really that shunting of most of the energy that they were creating was going to the car battery, and they just didn't know it. You know what I'm saying? And so I remember Rick, Morty took issue with it, because he's like, that's just slavery with extra steps, guy. And so they get there, because remember they had stopped working. That his car battery wasn't working. And so they get there and they find out that the scientist, one of the scientists there, had also created a smaller universe, a microverse now. And so now they go into that one, and he did basically the exact same thing that Rick did and pretended to be an alien. And then he was like, well, do you have anyone here working on the same type of thing, so that way people don't have to work anymore? And then they do it again. And it's like, so there's they go 3 universes in to this whole thing, of their this is how they're getting their energy. That like we're just going to give these people this thing. We're going to pitch it to them on this is technology. It's going to be great for you, but really, it's being used against them. It's being hijacked. It's like the loosh being taken. You know what I'm saying? You know, and so I loved the end of the episode though, where basically it's like Morty was like, well, great, we're going to have to, they finally get out. They finally escape, right? And he's like, great, we're going to have to throw the car battery away. And Rick's like, really? Do you think so? And they turn it, and he's like, let's try. So they turn it on, and the car starts, the spaceship starts. And he's like, because see, the scientists realized, like, if they don't start doing that again, he absolutely will throw the battery away, which will kill and destroy their entire universe. So he had to make a choice. Do we keep doing this? Or do we just sacrifice and end ourselves, you know? And so they chose to keep going. So that's just kind of fucked up, knowing that Rick has an entire universe inside of his car that is doing all the work for him, you know? Like under the guise of we're helping you out. It just makes me think of the whole thing where, you know, supposedly at the Granada Treaty or whatever, where they came here and they offered us technology in exchange for abducting humans, right?
With Eisenhower. Wasn't that with Eisenhower? Because Eisenhower met with the two different groups.
Yeah. And one of the groups was like, we'll give you all this stuff if you disarm your nukes, or we'll give you this technology if you allow us to, and you'll be the #1 powerhouse in the world if you just let us experiment on humans. And he chose to be the #1 powerhouse. And they even say that it wasn't a contract or anything that was like written, that it was all telepathically transmitted and consented and agreed to, because really your spirit in your mind, it thinks faster than what your words can speak out, you know? Definitely. So fucked up, man.
Well, you brought up the other thing too. I mean, you brought up symbolism earlier as well. And that definitely holds true. I think that is the prime language in this reality.
Yes.
Symbolism.
Absolutely.
I mean, it's absorbed by the subconscious mind at such a high rate, and it can convey a greater amount of information than verbal or written language. So,
absolutely. One of the things that I did pick up when Aurora was just talking about that, how Rick's draining the energy, it's also kind of an underlying reference about energetic vampires, right? Because when you think about it, Rick is from a realm just above, right? Much like the energetic vampires that we as enlightened or awakened or remembering beings often experience, we seem to get hit the hardest by people trying to drain us from a higher plane of existence, right? I don't necessarily know if it's higher, it's just a different density, but you know what I'm getting at here. I found that as a really neat hidden message that, you know, somebody's always draining you. So you're on a Google box for somebody, right?
True. Yeah, I feel you on that one.
It is. It's a lot like energetic vampirism. I mean, this is something we deal with on a lot of levels in this strange spiritual warfare we're in at this time. It exists in a lot of places, and even places you would least expect. So, I mean, that's why right now we have to be really focused on where we're giving our energy, where we're giving our focus. Are we putting focus towards the New Earth frequency? Are we channeling our energy into that? Or are we allowing it to leak out? Because, I mean, you know, we talked about loosh harvesting, and one of the loosh has a original name, and it isn't spoken about a lot. It's called dukkha. And dukkha is actually what the Buddhists refer to it as. And it's an energy that you emit when you are in a very intense negative emotional states, or you have an untrained mind. So, and you look at the whole population of the US right now, we've got a lot of untrained minds. We have a lot of untrained minds, and we got a lot of people in highly negative emotional states. So that all just adds to it.
I absolutely agree. So I love Aurora's main pick. It is probably one of the funnier episodes, but she has some stuff that she wants to say about this episode, and then I have a rabbit hole that I want you two to come with me on, because it's something I live in the dinosaur capital of the world. Let's just say that, and I have a subject to cross here. So
You know I love my Dracos. You know I love my reptilians, guys.
I remember
can't help
this. I
it.
remember this.
So, do you want to break this episode down for everybody?
Sure. Let's break it down. All right. So this episode basically it opens with Rick and Morty on a typical adventure where Rick wanted this special little cube thing, and the agreement is that if Morty does this mission for him, he will get him a dragon. Okay, and he doesn't even intend on actually getting him a dragon, but through the process of harassing him nonstop, and even his mom gets on Rick's ass for this. He's like, did you promise Morty a dragon? And so he's like, fine, So he gets Morty a dragon, and they signed a soul contract to be bonded. All right. And so now Morty's just like, yay, I have this dragon, and his name is, I forget what it's not Bartholomew. Balthamore. Yes, there we go. Okay, so Balthamore now is soul bonded, contracted by this wizard to do all of Morty's bidding. Okay, and Rick really could give a shit less or whatever, but when he's taking a break, what does a dragon like to do? It likes to go lay on its hoard, basically. Okay, and so Rick goes down into the hoard and basically tries to get rid of the dragon because he's like, okay, you've been here long enough, let's get you out of here. But he discovers that the dragon actually likes to hoard the things that our kind covets. So, for instance, he had an ectoplasm cooler high-C juice box from the 1980s. Okay, and he's like, how the hell did you get this? And he's looking at, and he had and I keep hearing it now because it's like this is one of the reasons that this episode stuck with me is because of the song. It's called Mask Off. Okay, and it's like, and so by Future, I think that's what his name is, Future. And so he even had it signed in Molly and Percocet and everything. And so they start to hang out. All right. And what happens is they really get intensely in this eye lock, into this eye locking, and where they're talking and they're appreciating each other. And then what happens? The real soul bond happens. Okay. Because think about it. I mean, obviously a dragon and a human, their bodies can't physically mate, right? So this is what happens, though. They still find a way. This is how they orgasmically connect and truly soul bond. Well, what happened? And then obviously Morty comes. He's like, what the fuck? You soul bonded with my dragon? I'm ripping up this contract. I don't even want it anymore. The wizard comes and he's like, there's no take backs. And then he tells him what happened. He's like, oh my God, this slut dragon. And he's like, you slut. And he keeps beating him. And he's like, you're only supposed to have one master, one rider. All right, I'll take them back. So they take them back. But the problem is that now because they soul bonded on this level, they feel each other's pain. Okay, so they're going to kill the dragon. And I guess it takes like 72 years for them to hang to death. All right. And the whole time, so Rick is in pain. So they actually have to go through with the mission to rescue the dragon, right? Because he's feeling all of his pain. And now the only way to do that is to end the soul contract. Okay, the soul bonding is to destroy the wizard. All right. So in order to get to that part, because they've been slut shamed now. Okay, that's what like a lot of the major theme behind this is like not shaming yourself for your sexual feelings and your sexual urges. So they have this group of dragons that are just super kinky, and they decide, okay, well, you know what? We are finally, because we have enough gathered here now, we can all basically form one giant slut dragon phoenix, and we can go after this wizard, and we can destroy him. So that way, the soul bond will be broken. Okay. And that's what they have to do. And I just thought that it was just so funny because of the fact that it's like, I think that people can actually have experiences of a sexual nature, even with entities outside yourself. You know what I'm saying? I actually had it, and this is why this episode this is why it sticks out. But there's also one more little thing I'm going to throw in there real quick so that we can come back to that. It drives me nuts because the little side part of the episode is Jerry finding a talking cat. Do you guys remember that? The talking cat? And they don't know why he talks. And so the talking cat. They don't know why he talks. And so eventually at the end of the episode, they capture the cat and they look to see why he talks. And they never, ever show us why he could talk, but it was apparently it was so gruesome, it was so terrible that they literally had to erase Jerry's mind from how terrible it was. He's like, I had that cat next to my photos of my parents. Like, that's how gruesome. And so it just mind-boggling, makes you wonder, okay, what the hell happened there? But to get back to the dragon part, okay, so hold on, let me see. All right, so they do end up defeating the wizard. Okay, I'm trying to think if there's any. Oh yeah, so I actually had a channeler one time tell me that I had a red dragon boyfriend in the astral, and I thought, wow, that's really cute. He said he called himself Marduk. Okay, and so I actually was standing around thinking about it afterward in my kitchen this one time, and I was like, I have this red dragon boyfriend. I was like, when the hell's the last time I seen this red dragon boyfriend around here? He doesn't even come to visit me or nothing. I have this boyfriend. He doesn't even come see me. Okay, whatever. So later that night, I'm laying in bed and I'm getting ready to go to sleep. And I'm not joking, guys. I felt something crawl onto my bed. It was big. It was massive. And it went, you could feel it. It like walked like a Komodo dragon. And it looked like a Komodo dragon. And it looked like etherically, like it was just on fire. And he came right up over top of me, and he was like, I'm here. And I was like, oh shit. So this kind of stuff is real. These types of things are real. And so yeah, that's one of the reasons that I absolutely love this episode, because it makes me think of that. And on top of that, and just to make it even spicier, okay, if you guys have ever watched this guy named Canadian Awareness, his name's Anthony. His channel is Canadian Awareness. He is, in my opinion, the number one draconian channeler. Okay, if you want to know what real draconian reptilian energy feels like, you watch this guy and he will tell you. And he went on a whole episode where he talked about sexuality. Okay, and he said he was channeling them, and he was basically saying, like, you do realize, like, if you were to you humans out there that want to sleep with a draconian, you realize, like, if you were to sleep with a higher dimensional being, you would never want another human again. Is basically what he said, which I thought was just so, like, hilarious, that is the level of which, like, this can relate. You know what I'm saying? Like, because you didn't get to show the clip of it or anything like that, but that's what was happening with Rick and the dragon, is like, it was just so good, and they were just bonding, and that's how it was. Like, he was like, why is it even better that you guys are, yeah, there it is. He's like, why is it even better that you guys are watching here? Why are you here? I mean, oh God, the whole episode was hilarious. If you guys haven't gotten a chance to watch it, I love that episode. Absolutely love that episode. And now you guys know that having an astral red dragon boyfriend is a possible thing. So yeah, just watch out. Careful not to soul bond if you don't want to be able to feel their physical pain, apparently. So
I'm wondering if that dragon is your servitor.
What's that?
I'm wondering if that dragon is your servitor.
What's a servitor? Like someone who serves me?
Servitor is like an egregore, but someone that, yes, that does serve you. So that's what I'm curious about. I don't know if you've ever considered that.
I will consider that. Mm-hmm.
Although I don't know if I would ever sleep with a reptilian. I don't know. I don't know if I would ever do that. I honestly want one's head on a stake in my yard before all is said and done. But that's just my opinion on them.
See, the thing for me is, I realize from my own experience, because my soul braid walk-in was a hybrid, a draconian reptilian hybrid. So I know that there's good ones out there. So those are the ones that I try to interact with. Obviously, there's going to be bad ones. You know what I'm saying? There is. We know about the bad ones, but those ones are usually lower dimensional and not the higher dimensional. Like the higher dimensional draconians and stuff, they're very honorable and respectable, and they don't, like, they're even breatharians. Like, they don't eat and drink babies like everyone tries to assume and stuff like that. They get very from the channelings that I've listened to and everything like that, they get very upset about the fact that like, how dare you? It's like we are so much farther above that. Like, we don't have any reason to mess with you humans. You know what I'm saying? It's like they want us to reclaim our own power. That's why they're there, for us to reach out to, if you're like really wanting to overcome fear, because that's the biggest thing they say that holds us back, is our own fears. You know, of being courageous, of sharing our own story, of, you know, God, there's so many things that our fears hold us back from. And so I think that's, they want us to take our power back. I think that there are actually good reptilians that you can reach out to that will help you train yourself and train those abilities. And so again, I just highly suggest, if you guys are interested in that kind of energies, Canadian Awareness, man, he is your guy.
I want to touch on one thing, and then my other thing about that episode. I think one of the hidden things in this episode itself was about getting attached to people. Like, I know Spinja and I not only can think the same thought at the exact same time, we've even gotten to the point where we feel each other emotionally on a physiological level. Like, what they were depicting in that episode is 100% real. If you truly soul bond with somebody, you will freaking feel them on a physical, etheric, biological, it doesn't matter. You feel everything that person is feeling, to the point where you start having to remind each other to talk when you're out in public, because you guys just all the fucking time. And
100%.
people are nuts. Now, my rabbit hole. I heard a theory that there's no such thing as dinosaurs. This was done by the Invisible College, and they've removed all of the wings off of all of the flying reptiles that have ever existed and called them dinosaurs. Even the pterodactyl, or even the Tyrannosaurus Rex, was a giant winged dinosaur. That's where you get the ones from Azeroth and stuff, where you see the enormous. Just picture a giant wingspan on a T-Rex. The smaller hands actually make a little bit of sense in the front now, don't they? Right? Because those were attached to the right? So I would love to get your guys' take on that.
So this is the one thing in my evolution, I've done away with consensual history altogether at this point. I've done away with it, because we look at how manufactured our reality is on every single scale. So to me, could there have been dinosaurs? I'm not saying there couldn't have been dinosaurs. Don't get me wrong. I do think, though, our history has been manufactured as well. So is it very possible that they could have been actual dragons? Because I do believe in dragons, and I think dragons are benevolent creatures. Absolutely. And could it have been possible? Absolutely. Absolutely. We look at everything that's fake. I mean, I even talked about how there was 1,000 years potentially added to our timeline by the Catholic Church. I mean, that's a huge thing I dove into. So, I mean, you look at the British occupation of India, and that was supposed to happen in the 1700s, late 1600s, early 1700s, things like that, if we're going by consensual history. But when you look at all of the tombstones of all the British soldiers, they say the year 700. And, couple that with the potential that we're being reset here periodically. There's some kind of reset occurring. I mean, and every time we get reset, we get a new set of history. We get, I would say, less advanced technology of some kinds like that. And that's my take on it, Don. I kind of agree with you. It's very possible. We look at how manufactured our reality is on a wide scale. They could have definitely erased that from the timeline and be like, hey, these are dinosaurs. These weren't actually dragons. So I'm with you on that, dude.
Absolutely. Spinja is just calling it. Usually when a plane flies over is about when I start forgetting shit. So, Aurora, what do you think of that concept that there might not have been? I agree with Steven. There might have been dinosaurs. There's probably, you look at the crocodile, there's probably ancient reptilians. But the large majority of them, will say, have likely had things removed because they were actually dragons, not dinosaurs.
Well, I believe in dragons, and I believe for sure, okay? But I also believe in dinosaurs. And the thing is that and all I really have to go on is the fact that when I hear this channeler talk about what the Draconians have to say about it, is that the dinosaurs were real. They were. This planet was first basically colonized by the Draconians. They feel like they were here first, and another species of some sort took out their entire race. They took out that, what I'm saying? They basically killed them all off, and that it was not a good thing. It was not a positive experience, obviously. But I think that they're real. But obviously they are hiding things from us. Obviously they are twisting and manipulating, and who knows at what point they actually really existed. who knows if they were all just like dragons, so to speak. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not really sure. But I just get the feeling that they were real, but we just don't know what they really look like because all we have is their skeletons, right? All we have is their skeletons. We can't see what their skin really looked like. That we're just going based off of scientists anyway, going based off of what they can imagine. I hope that makes sense.
It does, and the skeleton thing really resonates because I've seen some creatures without skin and fur. They're absolutely terrifying, but they're actually fairly cute and cuddly looking in real life. So there is no way to actually say what they 100% look like. But question from the audience. I know Stephen answered in the chat, but I'd love to expand on it. Do you guys think man and dinosaurs ever lived together?
Absolutely. Absolutely, I do. Or some kind of very large reptile. So here's the thing. We're supposedly the first ones to discover dinosaurs. Supposedly, this batch of humanity. But if you look at a lot of these hieroglyphs, you look at a lot of these different designs on certain potteries, certain tablets back in the day, it shows humans with dinosaurs. And there was actually an incident out here in Colorado that doesn't get spoken about at all. It was actually in CU. It was actually at CU. There was a professor here who found a Triceratops horn with soft tissue on it. So for those of you who know fossilization or savvy in it at all, when something is completely fossilized and it's been in the ground undergoing the fossilization process for these millions of years, there's absolutely no soft tissue left. None at all. You're dealing with pure bone. But this guy, this professor at CU, found a Triceratops horn actually out here in Colorado that still had soft tissue on it. So what this would insinuate is this Triceratops horn is not millions upon millions of years old. It's actually 26,000 years old. And I remember he actually brought it to his board. And even though he had hard evidence of this is why the narrative always beats the truth in the scientific institutions. The narrative always beats truth. Even though he had solid proof dating of this horn being 26,000 years old, of course, he got laughed at, he got mocked, he got fired. He was basically told to pack his shit and you're no longer teaching here. And so, yes, I do. I mean, we see the evidence because according to consensual history, if we're going like bare bone matrix history, we're the first people to have ever discovered dinosaurs in the mid 1800s, I believe is the first time, or mid to late 1800s when they were actually found. So how would these ancient indigenous peoples and these ancient peoples have all of these very graphic drawings of them being with like bronchiosauruses, them being with like stegosauruses and things like that, if we're the first people to have ever found them and discovered them? So that's my take. Yes, absolutely. We did exist in time.
Nelson, real quick. The other thing I want to mention is that we have to remember too, if it's a shared, it's like collective memory almost. You know what I'm saying? Exactly, like it wouldn't be there. Those things wouldn't even be in our conscious awareness if they didn't exist somewhere on some level, you know, at some point in time. You know, so it does make sense. It makes sense that man was around at the same time as them. Like the world was probably shared by multiple species. You know what I'm saying? Like why the actual dinosaurs suddenly I don't know why that happened particularly. I can't remember what it was the channeler had said. I apologize for that. But no, if it's like unicorns, dragons, you know, griffins, all those types of magical mythical creatures, I believe all of those actually existed. For sure.
Oh, definitely.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Otherwise, we wouldn't have them. We wouldn't have memories. We wouldn't be writing them into stories. Like these things are real.
I mean, you even look at Cthulhu. I'm just even throwing Cthulhu out there. And you look at like the gods of, Cthulhu, the gods of chaos. The elder gods.
The ancient elder gods.
So I mean, it's true. What you're saying is absolutely correct. It's in the human scope of our collective consciousness. We had to have experienced it at some point. And I mean, you look at, I mean, even coming down to, I mean, there's even ancient stories of Sasquatch. There's even ancient stories of these cryptid entities, potential elves, things like this, fairies. Like, absolutely, yes, I do think all of these existed as well.
And you forgot, Don, about your episode that you picked. Sasquatch was in your episode.
That's true.
Rick was in your episode. Yeah, he was helping Rick. He was the Pope's #1 trained assassin. Remember? Rick had caught him in a
yes,
and had been fucking with him so much
that
all he wanted to do, he wanted to kill Rick. And at the end, they ended up, and that was why he wasn't able to keep his generator station that was connected into the heaven realm. He wasn't able to keep that there because the Pope kept getting a hold of that energy and killing them and sending them back there over and over and over again. So eventually they had to tell the Vikings to destroy Valhalla completely, so that way the Pope could lose its energy and they could actually kill the Pope. And then they set the Sasquatch, which was now in a human body. Remember, they took him back to the woods and they basically told, "Get out of here! You get out of here, you!" And he's like, "Why? I'm a human now. I was hoping to get a job,
That one was good. That one was good. What was it? The Sasquatch killed Rick, and then he was like remorseful about it. And then Morty thought it was okay, so he ended up walking in there and ended up getting killed too. That was pretty funny.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I've actually never talked about it on the air, but I have had a very, very close encounter with one myself, and that's all I'm going to say. So I 100% believe that Sasquatch are real. Yeah, let's just leave that at that because that's a whole other conversation.
Well, they're interdimensional travelers, They can travel between dimensions. They can hide themselves. They cloak themselves real easily. Who is really good for Sasquatch information? Because the Sasquatch love this man. His name's Barry Littleton. He's done a lot of episodes, a lot of shows, a lot of videos on Sasquatch, and he's gone out into the field and had interactions with them even. So, and tried to get to know what their community was like and everything like that. He talks about the differences between the feistiness of the juvenile males as opposed to the elder males and things like that, and that there's even albino ones. Albino ones started connecting with him and stuff like that. So Sasquatch is a whole nother rabbit hole. It's a really cool rabbit hole. So I really like Sasquatch.
Yeah.
There was an interesting theory someone came out with it. Oh, go ahead. What were you going to say, Don?
I just missed Phil's comment, and I just wanted to. The dinosaurs were just another experiment. They were intentionally wiped out to start the next experiment.
But the Draconians were not happy about that. Let me tell you that. They did not. Their experiment was wiped out without their consent, so to speak. That's what I heard. So I'll just say. But what were you going to say? Because I feel like you got something good.
I'm wondering if it was the Elohim who did that. But anyways, so there was actually a theory going on about Sasquatch for a while. I like what you're saying, Aurora, but there's actually so one of the guys I had on my show way back in season 2, he was talking about how he thinks that actually Sasquatch and cryptids are manifestation of fungi consciousness. Manifestations of fungi consciousness.
Okay.
So we look at fungus, right? Mushrooms, how they're the 5th kingdom, how they could even be extraterrestrial. Yeah, mycelium network. We know that it's a highly intelligent form of life. There's plenty of studies on that. So the guy I was actually talking to thinks that the mycelium can actually project its consciousness into this existence and take many different forms, very Earth-like forms. I mean, you look at a Sasquatch; it's a very Earth-based form, lots of hair, very primate-like, almost humanoid, though. And a lot of the cryptids are potentially these manifestations of fungi consciousness. I thought that was really interesting, though, because when you look at how fungi is completely interconnected on the Earth. I mean, what are mycelium networks, almost thousands of miles long, and how they're actually working in synergy with the other plants in the forest, other trees, things like that, and actually talking with them and communicating with them. It could be a big reason why, a lot of the Sasquatch, like you were saying, it could be interdimensional, definitely. But this could also lend credence to that this is why Sasquatch can appear and then disappear. The fungi can become aware that something is going on. Because you think you're walking on the ground in a forest, in the deep woods. You're walking on top of mycelium, regardless. So your movement is sensed. Your presence is sensed. So it's possible. I really dug that theory. I thought it was kind of cool. To think that, to think that the fungi, the 5th kingdom of fungus could actually manifest and project its consciousness into this density. And it can take different forms. I just wanted to throw that in there because I don't think anybody's ever heard that. That's the first time I had heard that theory about Sasquatch also.
It makes me think of The Last of Us too, when it talks about them out, because if anyone who has seen the show or played the video game, it's like all they had to do was step on a piece of the mycelium network that was like that would trigger the zombies knowing exactly where to go, because that mycelium network was connected all around the entire planet, and I think that is true for our planet, absolutely. And that is it's a whole nother consciousness. And think about just mushroom trips and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? Clearly, these are powerful, I don't want to say beings, but a consciousness, a sentient consciousness, perhaps.
They definitely are. I would completely agree with you on that.
And they actually allude to this in another one of my favorite movies, is Avatar, because it's not like I've had other conscious experiences or know anything about that, right? But when they actually start talking about the mycelium network within that forest, they're like, it's 14 to the 10th or whatever connections, which is bigger than the human brain.
Yes.
And it, by a long shot, is like it. There are more connections on Earth than there are in our mind, right? And they have more of a network than we do at this point.
And think about it, when you take mushrooms and stuff, it actually creates more connections in the same type of way. You know what I'm saying? In the brain, it opens you up for rewiring, and it allows that neuroplasticity to start happening. The same, and just like you were saying, like there are all these different. It was almost like a giant brain that had more connections, right? The planet itself, Avatar planet, it was connected by like in that way. So in the same way that a brain is. So, and that's what happens when you take mushrooms. It literally opens up your brain and it allows those new pathways to form, which science tries to tell us is impossible.
No.
Exactly.
That has been a big part of my remembering, is clearing neural pathways. And I think that is definitely something people should look into, is clearing your physical form and your emotional body. And you will definitely rewire some things that make your life much easier to navigate.
And I'm 100% in agreement with it. I mean, I'm kind of in agreement with Phil. I do think they are beings. I do think it is potentially a state of consciousness that we don't quite understand. I mean, that's the thing about, the collective here, the general collective. We see something we don't understand, and we immediately try to off-label it, or we immediately try to place our own impression on it without even diving into it further and giving it an understanding. I am even in the camp that mushrooms are interdimensional themselves, and that they are a walkie-talkie of sorts to these higher realms. An ingestible walkie-talkie nonetheless, but it is. So these mushrooms, they have the capability of connecting us with our true nature. I think ultimately that's what they're trying to do, because you look at their nature, they're all interconnected. They realize they're all one. They're part of this giant network. And that's what the mushrooms want us to realize. We are also all one. We're also part of this giant collective network. And through my experiences, because I've told you, Don, I have a house in the DMT realm. I haven't been there in a while. It's getting dusty, but it is. It's ultimately the overall message every time I go there. And they want us to learn from them. So I do think they're beings. Who knows?
Absolutely. I think, like, I have shifted so much over the last several years. Like, in my younger years, I hunted, and like it was for sport, and I fished, and I don't resonate with those things anymore. I actually have some moral qualms with what I have to eat, but I'm here and I need protein and sustenance, and that's why I have to eat it at this point. So basically paleo with, I try to respect my food as much as possible, is the way I've been going at it.
Well, I actually just recently, I can't remember exactly where I heard this from, but it was about how even, like, I'm sure you've heard this, like even plants when cut scream, you know what I'm saying? Like everything that, and they said that there was only one way to, even eggs themselves have a consciousness, and they actually can cause physical pain when you go to break them open and eat them or whatever. And they said, but they found a way to put it into a state where it wouldn't feel that pain. And you know what it was? It was so simple. It was to pray over it with love.
Yes.
So when you pray over it with love, it doesn't cause it distress. It doesn't cause it pain. It surrenders, and it allows you to eat it and ingest it, because it's like you're showing, it's the reverence. You have to have reverence, you know? Mm-hmm.
Well, exactly. It's the reverence for the life. And that's the biggest thing. You hit the nail on the head, Aurora, because let me tell you, because the food is a big thing nowadays. I mean, especially in the spiritual community. The debate on the food is fucking endless. It is. And people have lost the knowledge that they can transmute that out of their food. And that's why, I mean, you look at a lot of these indigenous cultures, when they hunted, they gave respect for the life on their plate.
Avatar. Go ahead.
Just like Avatar, they utilized every part of the animal. They would take the skin and make blankets, clothes, whatever it was with it. They would take the bones. They would make weapons. They would make tools with the bones. They would eat the organs. They would give thanks to the life on their plate. And that's one of the big things I talk with the spiritual, because, in the spiritual community right now, we have diehard vegan, like absolutely no animals. It's cruel, this, and this. But also, too, there's people who eat meat in the spiritual community as well.
I think the human body honestly requires it. I'm sorry, guys. I've tried to do the veganism thing. I was the most unhealthiest. I don't ever see really a vegan that is that healthy. I'm sorry. Don't hate me, But you gotta imagine this, because the human body was designed and built to live off of proteins like this. Imagine, though, back in the day when you were a tribe and you would go out there, let's say you were raising a cattle, and eventually that cattle was going to become food for your family, and you connect with this being, and you are just dousing it with gratitude and love for its entire life, and you're telling it, this is your purpose. Your purpose is going to feed our family and allow us to continue going on. Don't you think that animal feeling that way is going to have a completely different experience than the one 100%. Where they're lining them up at the slaughterhouse, 100%. And then they're full of that fear, and then we're ingesting that, and it's like that's where I take issue. You know what I'm saying? I don't take issue with the fact that people eat meat. I take issue with the way that the only way we are able to get it supplied to us. It needs to be respected. The life of that animal that's going to offer itself to us in order to live needs to be respected in a different way, and I guarantee you it will change. It would change everything.
Oh, absolutely. You do. It changes the frequency of your food, and it's one of the because I mean, dude, you look at a lot of even Buddhist monks, Shaolin monks. I mean, they're ordained, so there's two different types of monks. You have ordained monks, and then you have the warrior monks, right? But both follow a similar route. And the warrior monks still consume meat, and the ordained monks don't. But it's not because eating animals is cruel. They have a different mentality for what they're trying to do. They feel like not eating meat allows more universal chi to flow with them and allows them to cultivate more universal chi. So, but you're absolutely right. And this is the thing that I wish like a lot of the people in the spiritual community would realize. You can transmute your food. You have the power to do that. And it would actually honestly end this argument, because I agree with you. Okay. Because I was vegetarian for 6 years. And I mean, I got out here in Colorado, I get raw milk, I get great eggs, I get good stuff. And one of the reasons I started eating meat again, actually, it was funny that you say this, was because of actually people on people relationships. And I think that's something that the spiritual community kind of loses touch with, because I would have people I know, like friends, offer me food that had meat in it, and I would always be turning it down. But, for me, when somebody's sharing food with you, they're breaking bread with you. They're sharing a piece of themselves with you. And it's like, you're supposed to accept that, in order to form this connection. So I was like, as much as I don't like the USDA farming and everything that goes on there and how they treat animals, so that's kind of why I ended up starting to eat meat again. So I agree with you. Veganism is not a sustainable way to eat it. It's not. If you have to take 35 supplements a day to make up for the lacking nutrients that are in your diet, that's not a sustainable way to eat. And one of the biggest arguments I get into, they're like, well, supplements are cruelty free. But I'm like, actually, your body prefers natural vitamins and minerals that are from food. They're more bioavailable in your body than supplements are. And in fact, what's crazy about supplements too is they sell a lot of inactive forms out there that actually cause deficiency symptoms in you if you take this supplement. B6 is one that's notorious for that. So no, I just wanted to. Sorry, I didn't mean to go off on a tangent about the food there. But it's yeah, I didn't mean to go. But that's what drives me, because the spiritual community is full of elitism. You know, you have these people who are like, oh, if vegan is the only way, real humans don't eat meat, and then it's just this whole batch of elitism. But if you understand the nature of this reality, you understand the nature of your power, your energy that you have here, the power of intention, the power of transmuting that intention into your existence, you can transmute all of the negative energy out of your food and have a different result. So I'll leave it at that. I don't want to go any further.
I totally agree. Couldn't agree more on that one. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
absolutely. And I have a couple of things before we get taken off here. Michelle, you asked for this. C is for cookie. That's good enough.
I did not know you could do that.
I can do Beetlejuice as well. But anyway,
Beetlejuice.
Secondly, for his first ever live performance, William is going to play snake jazz.
Apparently I am.
Holy shit, let's hear this.
Let's go.
He's got to fix it. His drum kit is right in front of us, so that's just why this is easy.
There it is.
Awesome, buddy.
I love that snake episode so much. It's so funny. Oh my god. Remember when he said the Buzz Aldrin snake, and he sends him back to the planet? And he keeps fighting him, and he's like, get the fuck out of here. And he throws him down, and oh my god.
They're loving it, William.
Oh Lord.
Can I just bring up real quick before we sign off? I want to bring up the Morturian candidate real fast, and all of the freaking
another good one. Bring it up.
So the Kennedy sex tunnels. Right? That was
yeah.
Those are definitely a real thing. Those are definitely a real thing. That's 100%. How do you think Monroe got to the White House, bro? How do you think she got to the White House? She was, but the funniest one though, what was it? It was the Truman Cocaine Lounge. That they had at the bottom of there, and then it was the McKinley hooker dump.
Yeah,
which is, if you know about McKinley and you've actually studied him, that's a gem right there. And then you have the Lincoln Slave Emporium, which was actually pretty funny. But the Kennedy sex tunnels are a real thing, guys. So a little bit about me. Even though I live in Colorado now, I grew up in the DC area. I grew up in Washington, D.C., Northern Virginia, Fairfax County. Yes, it's all true. We have to do a show about stories sometime, some very interesting things. But I worked alongside guys who had NDAs that expired that would talk about the underground tunnel system running throughout DC. Yep, and how they worked on it, how they have restaurants down there, they have gas stations down there, they got stores down there. Oh yeah, so the Kennedy sex tunnels thing is a real fucking thing. 100%. So I just wanted to throw that in there because that was a great episode. I love that because when they're fighting, they end up in the Truman Cocaine Lounge and they're throwing cocaine at each other, and it slaps him in the face, and then his eyes get all wide, and they break down into the hooker dump, and they're still fighting. But no, the Kennedy sex tunnels are a real thing, guys. That's not a joke.
And I love
this show is disclosure. Go ahead.
Absolutely. Yes. And before we go, I love the little secret nod that the president is the dude from They Live. They Live is the best in-your-face movie that you're ever going to see about what the fuck is going on in this reality. And the fact that he's the president on Rick and Morty, I see what you guys did, and I love it.
Do you die hard? Do you really die hard?
Wait, how about the fact that Summer didn't even ever seen the movie, but she somehow found the guy was like, every single species has their own version of Die Hard. So one of them calls it the Tower Man. Another one calls it this other thing. And she ended up reading the book that from their species or whatever. And that was how she ended up fulfilling the quest, because she had read the book and so she knew to tie the gun to her back. And they were like, she doesn't even know the movie, so she won't be able to destroy us. And she was like, well, you guys left your book out, so yeah, we could actually. Die hard, die hard, die hard.
Die hard, die hard, die hard.
Die hard, motherfucker, die hard. Okay, sorry, I'll stop.
All right, guys. Aurora, where can everybody find you and what do you got going on?
Well, you can find me on YouTube at Aurora Diamondheart. I've been picking up my streams, trying to do those kind of a little bit more semi-regularly. But the biggest place you can find me at is on Facebook at Aurora Diamondheart, where I get to post lots of funny memes. And let me tell you, my subscriber count is going through the roof. Facebook really likes me right now. I'm grateful for that. So definitely come and hang out. I do tarot readings as well. You can reach me. I'm building a website. I'm in the middle of it right now. I have a good friend of mine who has been really helping me out with it. His name's Victor White. I just want to give him a little shout out. And but you can, until then, you can either email me at auroradiamondheart@gmail.com, or just leave me a comment underneath one of my posts, and I will get back at you. Either way, those are the best ways to get a hold of me right now. So.
And my interdimensional brother, where
I gotta give it to you, Aurora. The Benadryl hat man meme made me laugh my fucking ass off.
The which one? I love
the Benadryl hat man meme. That made me laugh my fuck. I don't know if you've ever seen the subreddit for recreational Benadryl, but there was this one post. I meant to send it to you, but it said, after 450 milligrams, Hat Man does not respect gender neutral pronouns. He doesn't respect the gender neutral pronouns anymore.
I need that meme.
I'll send it to you.
Send it to me. All Hat Man memes, any Hat Man, Shadow People, any type of those types of memes, that's right up my alley. Send them right my way, please. Yes.
I about that. I'll send them to you. Yes. But of course, you can find me and Don on the Forbidden Knowledge Network. So you can always check us out at www.forbiddenknowledge.news. Also, check out everybody else there. Support the documentaries. We've got a lot of really good homegrown, homemade content from the heart that has no narrative behind it. We don't get a lot of that nowadays. And of course, you can find me on all major podcast platforms: Rockfin, Spreaker, Apple, Spotify. You can find me on YouTube and Rumble under BGcast. You can find me under all social media as BGcast. I'm most active on X. And if you want to reach out to me, just hit me up. Just comment on one of my videos, comment on my X. That's what I'm most active on. And if you want to come on the show, let's do it.
And all that cool stuff is in the links and in the description, because I actually remembered to freaking do it this week because I was on this one. Oh, I had notes. I had my shit together. I was on it. Like
in a backpack.
I put it all in a backpack. Get your shit together.
That's right.
Right?
Go sell it at a little shit store. Do what you
Yeah,
need to do.
go to a shit store and go sell it. Get your shit together. Get it all together.
I did that.
Yeah, you did. Okay. Aside from that, I want to thank everybody. There was like 22 people in the audience at one point. This has been freaking amazing. I love you guys all for the conversation. I am so sorry that you guys were commenting so much that I did miss some. Phil, especially to you, because I know you always have great content to add. But from there, I am going to say what I always say. If you can, please go outside, because it's a lot better than sitting in front of this screen. Wubba lubba dub dub.
Wubba lubba dub dub.
I'm